biggest gang in the prison estate. That's what I'm talking about in this episode. And a lot of you will be coming to the channel or coming to this episode thinking that I'm going to be talking about a criminal gang inside of prison. Well, the biggest gang in the prison estate is actually the prison service. And I'll tell you the reasons behind that now. But the prison service, there's 80 odd thousand, about 85,000 prisoners in the country. And I'm not sure exactly how many prison staff there is, but there's quite a substantial amount. It's in the tens of thousands. And the prison service is actually the biggest gang. And the reason behind that is if you have trouble with any staff in the prison system, the prison service will always come out on top. And I'll just give you a couple of examples how, because if you are in prison and you're fighting with a screw, the prison staff, and you might think you've gotten the upper hand, you've given a screw a couple of bats, or you've hit a couple of the officers, and it's took 10 of them to take you down and wrap you up. And what I mean by wrap you up is in prison slang, when you've been wrapped up off the screws, it means they'll all jump you. 10 of them, at least 10 of them will jump on you mob-handed, wrap you up, and wrap you up means get your hands behind your back, buckle your hands up, push your arms up behind the back, restrain you. And that's called wrapping you up and getting dragged down the block. So you've had a fight with a couple of screws or whatever, or someone on the wing, and they get wrapped up, they get tucked down the block, and they get the beating of the life. They get put into a cell where there's no cameras, and all 10 of them will come in, stamp on you, beat on you, and that's because you've hit one of their own. So that's them getting the payback on you. And not only that, you're left in that cell, that concrete cell, beaten, battered and bruised, feeling sorry for yourself. You maybe get stuck down there for weeks, months at a time. Then you'll get moved off to another prison or another wing that you don't want to be on. And that is them getting their payback on you. So this is the reasoning behind me seeing the biggest gang in the prison estate or the prison establishment is the prison service. The screws, the governors, anybody that's involved with the prison service, if you go against them or you interrupt their everyday things in prison, everyday life, or you affect them in a negative way, or you be cheeky to them, anything, they'll always come out on top because they've got the power to do anything. If you're on a wing and you're feeling comfortable by being on that wing, but you get too big for your boots, you're disrespecting the staff or whatever, or you're thinking you can run the wing, the screws can simply just remove you from that wing without you even having a say. You have got no say whatsoever where you get moved to, what wing you get put on, what prison you get sent to, because the staff, the screws, the governors have ultimately got control of you and got control of everybody in that prison or in the prison estate. You've got no say whatsoever. Even the lads in the big prisons in the high security estates that have got pull on the outside, the big gangsters on the outside, they might have one or two screws under the thumb that are bringing stuff in for them. But once the other screws get a hold of it or get find out that they're bringing stuff in, they'll soon get you moved off that wing to disrupt whatever you're doing. And there is gangs in the prison estate. There's not so many gangs as what you hear in American prisons where it's all divided into races and different things. It's not like that over in our prisons in the UK. But everyone will be thinking that I was going to talk about something like that in this episode. But in the high security estates, I've seen it firsthand. But just before getting to that, just look at the likes of Charles Bronson. He's been in prison 48 years, and he thought he could win against the prison system. He was taking governors hostage. He was taking screws hostage. He was beating screws up. He was doing all sorts of madness. and he was only doing a short tariff. He could have been out after approximately something like 7 years, but 48 years later, he's still in prison. And why? Because he fought against the biggest gang there is in the prison estate, in the prison establishment, and that is the prison service. So why is he still in there now, 48 years later? It's because he went up against the biggest gang. He thought he could win. He thought he could have one over on them. He took them hostage. He beat them up. He intimidated them. He's anti-authority. He backchats. He does everything that you're not supposed to do if you want to get through your sentence and get out the other end. You go against them and you're going to end up like another Charles Bronson. There's any amount of them in the prisons now, especially the IPP lads. They're because of the sentence that they're doing, same as myself. Sometimes they feel like they're not getting any further forward, so they'll go against the system and think, right, they're going to fight against it. But all that happens is they get moved around the different prisons, and it follows them everywhere. If someone's been in prison for 10 years, even if they might be keeping their head down now, say for the first 5 years they were working their cells, fighting all the time, attacking screws, attacking staff, and they've come to their senses now and they think, right, it's time to calm down. I'll try and keep my head down and get through the system. But when they get moved from prison to prison and the screws are reading the file, I think it's a P16, I can't remember exactly. Sure, you've got a file that's got all your information on you. Every single prisoner's got one. So when you land on a new wing or a new prison, the first thing the staff do is pick that up and read through it to see what your behaviour's been like in the other establishments. And if they pick that up and read that such and such has headbutted an officer, such and such has been beating prison officers up, but even though now you might be keeping your head down in prison, getting on with your sentence, thinking, right, I'm going to be coming to the end of it soon, I'm showing that I've changed, they're going to have it over on you because they're going to see what you've done in the past to one of theirs, because they're all one big camaraderie, they're all one big... It's not classed as such as any ordinary person would say, a gang, but realistically, the prison service, all the screws made up, all together, they're all one big gang, and if you have done something to one of their own, they're going to get comeback. They're going to get, how should I say it? They're going to exact revenge in their own way, and they get that by not giving you good reports, or you might be settled on a wing, you might be doing all right, and they'll purposely move you onto another place or another wing just to disrupt your everyday life because of what you've done in the past. You've attacked screws, you've attacked prison officers, and they're never going to let you forget that. Just like a criminal gang within the prison service, just imagine you've got a gang in the high security estate that someone 5 years previously has attacked one of their gang. 5 years later, do you think they're going to forget about it? You get moved into a prison that's predominantly made up of this gang, and you're by yourself, even though you've had no trouble in 5 years. Do you think that gang is going to let you forget about that? This gang is going to secretly team up and do something to you to get comeback on you. And this is what's happening in the prison service. But you can see it from the point of view as well. If you were a screw working in a prison, you're all one big, what you could call, they're all one big family. You hurt one of them, you hurt them all. Just like on the outside with police officers, you hurt one of them, you hurt them all. They're never going to let you forget it. You hurt someone in a criminal gang, you hurt one of them, you hurt them all. It's all the same sort of thing. And this is what's happening inside the prison service. And like I've just said, if you were one of them, you could not blame them for doing what they do, because you think you're going up against these lot and you think that you're going to have one over on them. You've got another thing coming. I'll give you an example of what happened in Franklin when I was in there. I'll not mention any names, but this particular person had trouble with the Muslims, and this firm of people were having a fight. The screws got involved. a couple of these lads battered the screws. They got put down the block. They got wrapped up. They got to go hiding down the block. And this lad was from up this way, a white lad who had trouble with the Muslims after this altercation. And he got took down the block. He got wrapped up. He got beat up off the screws. And the screws knew if they sent him down to Long Lartin, put him in amongst all the Muslims, where there's predominantly Muslims down that end, that they knew what was going to happen. So about a week later, they let all of his wounds, his bruises and everything heal up. Then they chucked him on the bus, sent him down to Long Lartin. The lad went on the wing in Long Lartin. He didn't last 2 minutes. He got hit from behind with pool balls and socks, knocked out unconscious by the Muslim gang, and they dived on top of him, stabbed him up. He woke up in hospital a few days later, he was nearly dead, came round, and the word got back up to Franklin what had happened to him down at Long Lartin, and the screws knew exactly what was going to happen, and that was the reason why they'd done that. But again, he's set about the screws, beat the screws up, and that's their way of getting their revenge. They don't even have to do anything physically to you after that. All they've got to do is send you somewhere where they know you're going to get trouble. And that is what happens inside the prison estate, inside the prison service. And this should also be a deterrent to people thinking that they're going to go in there and fight the system and win against them, because believe you me, you'll never win against the system. And Charles Bronson is a prime example of that. Everyone says Charles Bronson should be freed, he should be out. Charles probably could be out now if he did behave himself, but he's still probably anti-authority inside, even though he will be getting on with the staff now. He's probably got friends at his screws. They're the ones that he's living with, the ones that work with him every day, come into work. He probably gets on well with them. But behind the scenes, because of everything he's done in the past, everything's on paper what he's done, and he's done some bad things, and they'll never let him forget it. And that's just what happens. So the biggest gang in the prison estate is actually the prison service. Go against them and you'll wish you didn't, because you'll end up suffering yourself and you'll never win against them. To see him on the outside, when people go up against the police, fight the law. You've heard that song, I can't remember who sang it. Someone let us know in the comments. I fought the law and the law won. They're always going to win, because they're the ones that's ultimately in power. You can't do anything against them, or if you do, you're going to come unstuck, because in the long run, they're going to make you suffer because they're the biggest gang in the prison service. But I hope you're enjoying that one, people. Remember to like and subscribe. Take care.